All right, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to Tracksuit Thursday, December edition. PFC in the house, Coach of Being, Townsend Wardlaw, that is I. PFC Peace Freedom Connection. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for being part of this. Have a really fun conversation to share with you today, and that is about time, specifically accessing infinite time. Who doesn't want more time? Especially around the holidays, right? Everybody you talk to, how's it going? Oh, I'm busy. Oh, I'm crazy busy. Oh, life is crazy busy. Hello, Mr. Hughes. Hello, Steve Shaw. Good to see you. Hello again, Gerald. All right, I'm going to give up on this thing over here. Doesn't really matter. Doesn't really matter. You guys can hear me. That's all I care about. So if you have not been over to the Peace Freedom Connection website, peacefreedomconnection.com, do that. Get on the mailing list so we can send you more stuff announcements. We don't fill your mailbox with a lot of crap, but we do send you great content, videos, articles. Speaking of which, the inspiration for today, this conversation around infinite time, was something I did probably a month ago at this point. I was part of an online event put on by a group called the Creator Collective. And during the online event, my talk was accessing infinite time. It was about an hour and a half. It has been recorded. It is recorded. I have a recording of it. And if you would like the recording of it, please send me a direct message and I'll get it to you. So we're going to just be scratching the surface today. I only have 20, 25 minutes of everybody's attention on these lives. So if you'd like the full presentation, it's 90 minutes plus Q&A. Please send me a direct message or send one to Melanie and we'll get you a copy of that. Time is the one thing we all run out of, isn't it? At some point, there's no more time. At some point, we got no more time. There'll be a day when I won't be here. There'll be a day when you won't be here. We'll call that, good morning, Jamie. We'll call that the day when you got no more time. This isn't about longevity. The talk this morning is not about how to extend our lifespan. Lots of people promising that. This is about what you do with the time you got while you're here. This is about how you use it. This is about how you create with your life such that you have an experience of time. And let's just say, I think most people's experience of time is a little challenging. Most people I know are busy, stressed, frazzled, running about. I talked to my son yesterday. He was driving up the mountains in Utah to go to the ski resort where he works, and it was snowing and he was trying to pass somebody and somebody was on his backside, flashing his lights, honking his horn, got to get past. He finally went around the car he was trying to get around. This guy didn't like that, tried to run him off the road. Here's somebody who's so stressed about time. He's gonna hurt somebody or try to. Probably gonna hurt himself. Look around you. Look at the moms with their kids, the dads with their kids. Look at the people rushing about. We have got a problem with time. Now, some would say it's all the distraction. It's all the lack of attention. It's all the things pulling on it. I would say, I don't think so. Something totally different. It's how we think about time. It's how we use it. Here is the most important thing I'm going to share with you during our time together. Time is a concept. Time is a concept. Time is a concept. Truly, the idea of 24 hours in a day is a concept. 365 days in a year is a concept. We made it up, and it's imperfect. We got leap year. We even have leap seconds. Time is a concept like money is a concept. I sometimes joke with folks, bring me money. You can't. You can't find money. Money doesn't exist. But wait a minute, I got these bills. No, that's currency or Bitcoin or investments, but money. Money is a concept, how we think about it, how we use it, how we apply it, how we create with it, how we destroy with it. Time is the same. Time is a concept. Our concept of time determines how we use it, determines how we create with it. And let's look at how most people create their concept of time. Well, how would you know how people create their concept of time, Towns? It's pretty easy. I listen to them speak. I watch what they say, how they talk about it. Time is money. Time is short. No time like the present. Don't waste time. Those are all creations. We speak about time, and that's what it is. I love when people get on my calendar. Well, I know your time is short. I know you're really busy. No, it's not. I've got all the time in the world. That's how I create time. That's how I create my concept of time. Listen to how you and others speak about time, think about time. That will help you see very clearly how you create it. It is not objective. Time is not created and used and applied by everyone objectively, systematically. Just because most people in the world are rushed and crazy, busy and stressed out and not enough time, and they don't have the time to do the things they want, that doesn't mean that's how time is. That is how a lot of people create it. Follow me around someday. I seem to have all the time in the world. And it's not because I got nothing to do. If you looked at my calendar, you would be amazed at how much is on my calendar. You would also be amazed at how much time I appear to have. I joke about this, but not really. Since the beginning of the year, right? It's December 15th. What does that make it? I don't know, 350 days since January 1st, 2022. 350 calendar days. I think I'm doing my math right. If not, that's okay. The same amount of days have transpired on the calendar, but if you looked at what I have created in the last 350 days, recently I sat down and wrote out all the things that I was able to produce and create and all the outcomes and results in my life that I was proud of. It went on for pages. You would look at what's been created this year by me and say that could not have been created within 350 days. Something must be going on. Yeah, I'll tell you what's going on. I use time differently than you do. I think about time differently than you do. And as such, time behaves differently for me than it behaves for you. Truly, time is different for me than it is for you. One might even say time is relative. A certain someone that said, time is forever, right, John? It's how much we get of it and how we use what we got of it. Beautiful statement. Remember Einstein's special theory of relativity? You probably don't, but maybe you remember the movie Interstellar. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. If you've watched it, go watch it again. Neil deGrasse Tyson said it was one of the best descriptions, examples, illuminations of the special relativity, the special theory of relativity that Einstein shared. Time behaves differently. Time moves at different rates based on the gravitational force, the gravitational pull created from planets and other bodies. In the movie, right, the astronauts are in the ship and then they go down to the planet. Well, the planet is near this black hole. They don't want to go near the black hole. The planet's getting sucked into the black hole. So all sorts of weird stuff's going on this planet, including giant tidal waves. So the gravitational force on this planet is so much greater than on the ship that by the time the astronauts get back from the planet to the ship, they've been on the planet for an hour. It's been 7 years on the ship. Time does not move at the same pace, even objectively. Scientifically, this isn't fanciful theory. Well, what if we didn't have to travel to space to experience this shift in time? Now, like I said, I've got a whole presentation on this. I get to unpack lots of really cool ways of thinking about time, ways of creating time. One of those is how we use time to travel, right? Traveling across the country takes a certain amount of time in a car. It takes a whole different time in a jet. Moving through experiences in life. If you have a 10-year goal that you can accomplish in less than 10 years, well, that messes with time, doesn't it? I want to say it was 2015, I created a 10-year vision with my then coach, Mike Valentine. 10 years of what I believed was, if I was lucky, everything on this list would be created in 10 years. Turns out it happened in 4. Huh. What does that do to your concept of time? Jean-Jacques Rousseau, who was a philosopher around the Age of Enlightenment, had a beautiful quote: "The man who has lived the most is not he who has counted the most years, but he who has felt life most." He actually says has most felt life. The man who has lived the most is not he who has counted the most years, but he who has most felt life. The more life you experience, the longer that life is on a relative basis compared to other people living the same amount of life on the clock and on the calendar. That's what we're talking about here, kids. And I'm not going to give you the solutions here today. This is something to think about, to ponder, and maybe to reach out and ask for that presentation. Because what I will tell you, these ideas you have about time are costing you your life. They're slowing things down. They're saying you can't have what you want now. They're saying you have to wait. Well, you only got so many years on this planet. It's what you do with them. One of the things I do is I keep track of how many days I got left. And that's an interesting concept, isn't it? Let's just say I have an idea of how long I'll be here. So I look at how many days I got left. It's about 12,235 last time I checked. I got 12,235 days left in this existence. What I'm going to do with those 12,235 days will make somebody who also has 12,235 days look like they didn't do that much. My life will have more life in it, more experience in it. I said already, if you looked at what was created since the beginning of the year, you would say that could have happened in the past 350 days. What I will tell you from my experience is it feels like about 3.5 years since January 1st, 2022. I got back from Colombia a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. It felt like 3 months the other day because of all the things that have occurred since I've been back. That's a different way of thinking about time. So if you want to access infinite time, and I'm just going to give you little ideas here. There's more string you can pull on if you like. But if you want to access more time, if you want life to feel different, if you want your experience of time to be different, there's a couple ideas I have for you. One is you're going to want to look at how our thinking, not just our doing, consumes time. There's certainly the doing aspect, all the stuff we think we got to do. If we could eliminate some of that, well, that would create more time, right? More life in the same period equals a different relationship with time, a relative experience of time. But in addition to what the doing that you do that takes up time, people often forget about the thinking that consumes time. And here's a simple example. Not long ago, I was working with one of my clients. We were talking about next year, and he's got a big review coming up in, let's just say, February or January, I don't know. And he's going to be getting a promotion and a raise. So the conversation was, cool, let's create what raise you're going to get. Right? You could walk in there and see what they give you, or we could start creating now, what are you going to get and how are you going to make sure they know that's what you deserve? Simple question. On February 15th, what are you going to ask for? It took him about 17, 18 minutes to come up with an answer. With the same information he was sharing me, it took me about a minute, maybe less. Same question, how much should he ask for? We came up with the same answer. My answer came up in a minute. His took 17, 18 minutes. Why is that? Well, I did a math problem. I calculated this plus this minus this, add this, divide this equals the number. It's what made sense. at the end of it all, he had done the same math problem, but that math problem took him longer with all the thinking he had around it. His worthiness, the likelihood they'll say yes, the economic, all sorts of other factors that slowed down his thinking. So yes, how we think determines how we consume time. The faster you make decisions, take an action on that decision, get feedback, and then take another action, the more decisions you can make, the more actions you can take, the more feedback you get, the more you learn, the more you create. If thinking about things longer, if you're an overthinker, to make this very simple, time feels different to you. I might go through the day and make 100,000 decisions, or 100 or 1,000. I don't know. Somebody who has to think a lot more, whose thinking is all clouded up because of who they're being, doesn't make as many decisions. Their life experience is different than mine, regardless of what the clock says. I talked about this idea of doing. One of the most important questions that I ask folks this time of the year, as we get to the end of the year, start talking about next year, is not just what do you want to create, what do you want to do next year? What do you need to stop doing? What are the things that you're doing that you need to stop doing that are consuming time? What can you stop doing that you could have somebody else do? What could you stop doing that just doesn't need to be done? It's another way to mess with time, to access infinite time. And the final tidbit I'll give you today, and like I said, you can ask me for the presentation, it goes into a lot more detail, is the game we play determines our experience of time within that game. The way to have the experience of more time is to play a bigger game. Now, most folks sort of recoil at this idea of playing a bigger game, doing more, making more, building more. One, because they think it's going to be more work. Two, they get really attached to it because they think playing a bigger game is going to really make them feel differently. That's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about bigger goals. So you like have a bigger party when you're standing on the podium and feel better, right? If you've gotten to the point where you realize what you create in life is not actually going to change your inside experience, that's a good thing. And still, it makes sense to play a bigger game. Whatever game I'm playing will have rules, a clock, opportunities, challenges, obstacles. The bigger game I play, the smaller those perceived obstacles and challenges become. The things that today feel like mountains to climb become little stones to step over in the context of a bigger game. So whether it's a bigger game in a relationship with your spouse, with your children, at work, with money, with the company you're building, or how you're serving the world, the bigger game you're playing causes time to be experienced differently, and all the things that occur within that game to be experienced differently. So ask yourself, what game am I playing in life? What game am I playing at work? What game am I playing? Most people ain't even playing a game. Most people are just showing up and doing what happens. They're not conscious of, here's the game I'm playing, and it's a game worth playing. If you've taken the step to say, here's what I'm playing, here's what I'm playing for, here's the goal, here's the objective, here's the outcome, not because I need it, but because that's what we do as creators, well, then play a bigger one. What would make that a 10x bigger game? If you create a 10x bigger game on whatever you're playing, the game you were playing, you'll have a different experience of it, I promise. Try it out. These approaches are not just techniques, though. It's not just like, oh, play a bigger game, right? What I'm talking about requires looking at who you're being that is creating time with your thinking and your speaking everywhere in your life. You have to look at the degree to which you perceive life as difficult, busy, stressful, time is short, not enough time, I don't have time to do what I want, nobody has enough time, not time for anything, and how you're creating that 24 hours a day, even when you're sleeping. Right? Working at the level of being has the possibility of creating differently our thinking and our speaking, which will produce a different reality all day long and twice on Sundays. So I could talk about this topic for hours. I have all the time in the world. You do not. You have something else to run off to. Put 25 minutes on your calendar or something like that. That's great. One of my favorite authors is a gentleman by the name of Benjamin Hardy. He wrote years ago a book called Slipstream Time Hacking. I highly recommend it. A lot of these ideas were germinated from stuff I read from him. He came out with a book most recently called Being Your Future Self. It's all about talking to your future self and learning to create, play a bigger game, and bend the rules of time. Another resource I'd recommend is a book by a woman named Annie Duke called How to Decide, and it's all about decision making. I promise you this, you change the way you make decisions, you speed up your decisions, life will move faster, learning occurs faster, your experience of time will be different. You take everything you're doing in a day, all the decisions you make, and compress it down. I can make those decisions in 30 minutes. You got more time. Dan Sullivan, who is a world-renowned coach, he coaches coaches, has an incredible program. He's been doing this for years. When he's working with one of his one-on-one clients, he has a very simple exercise he puts them through. He says, okay, let's look at all the things you're producing, outcomes, outputs, money, whatever you're producing in the world. Now we're going to get that down to 5 days a week because they're usually working nights and weekends. We're going to get everything you're producing. You're going to figure out how to create all of that in the 5 days you have during the week, not on the nights and weekends. When you're at 5 days, he said, great, now you're going to do it in 4 days. All right. We're not going to change the output. We're simply going to change the time required to produce the same output. Figure out how to create as much as you're creating in less time. That's how he backs into it. Then he takes them down to 3 days, then to 2 days. When he's got them down to 1 day, he says, cool, now we can decide what we want to do with all the extra time because we got some. But fundamentally helps them see the possibility that everything they're producing in their life that was once taking not only 5 working days a week, but nights and weekends, can be done in 1 day a week. They have a different relationship of time with time. Rory Sutherland has an incredible book called Alchemy. It's a fun book, and he's an incredible author, tells a lot of great stories, very creative mind, and he looks at things differently. He looks at solving problems differently, often in ways that reduce the effort necessary to solve them, that he doesn't actually even create them as problems. So it's a great book to read and give you some insight in this idea of how we create the world determines what we do with the world. We create things as problem. We walk around all day and solving them, moving stuff out of the way. We create the world as everything there is for me to learn from and create with. Well, we interact with it differently. We don't have to move it out of the way with the bulldozer. Sometimes we step around it. Sometimes we realize it's a gift we're supposed to work with and do something with. And then another gentleman I would strongly recommend is Scott Adams of Dilbert fame. He also has a fairly prolific writing career. One of his concepts he calls talent stacking. It's a specific paradigm for how you can combine different competencies in ways that give you unique advantages in terms of what you create in the world, your value in the world, all the way from the jobs you have to the kind of money you can make, not focusing on being the best at anything, but being an assembler of what he calls talent stacks, things that you put together. So Scott Adams, Annie Duke, Benjamin Hardy, Rory Sutherland, great authors to go and follow. Thanks for spending a little of your precious time on this beautiful Tracksuit Thursday. Please visit the Peace Freedom Connection website if you haven't been in the Facebook group or the LinkedIn group. Like, share, contribute, ask questions. Have an amazing day.